the dance form is rooted, right? Those Middle Eastern and North African regions. There are certain forms of belly dance that I mean, you could literally get arrested for doing them if you're in those countries.
We talked about age and we talked about gender and making the working so that we are making sure that our space is actually reflective of the fact that everybody has a place in dance. Welcome back to Beyond the Steps, produced by Apolla Performance Wear and Turning Point Dance Creations. Today, it's just the two of us. I would sing, but I'm not a great singer. So, and honestly, this is one of our favorite episodes to record every month because we just get to wrap up all the incredible things from the series of the previous month. And this month, it was belly dance artist and educator Iona Wilson of Lotus Belly Dance. And we have a lot to say.
We really do, but we always do. So, I mean, what's new about that? Over the last 3 weeks, Iona took us through a cultural appropriation, race, representation, age, gender, and belly dance. It was a whole journey. Um, and I'll be honest, I came away from every single conversation thinking a little bit differently.
If you missed any of those episodes with Iona, please go back and listen. They are packed. Today, we're going to break down some little moments, but it's definitely not going to give you everything that you would get hearing it from her. So please make sure that you listen to us, take it back to your own spaces, and let us know what you think in the comments. So let's get into it, Bree.
One of the biggest things I took away from our very first segment with Iona was this idea that good intentions aren't enough, right? We can love a dance form deeply and still cause harm if we haven't done the work to really understand where it comes from and who it belongs to, as well as how that's communicated the way we're teaching, right? And it took me back to the conversation that we had a couple years ago with Asia Upchurch and about hip hop and just about cultural appropriation and hip hop and that whole conversation. And it was just a really fantastic conversation. So if you can go back and find that, definitely do it. But it's not a problem exclusive to the belly dance community. It is throughout the entire dance industry and probably beyond that, right?
It really was a reality check for me as an educator because we teach dance. I teach dance and it's what we love and what I love to do. And I'm teaching steps. But Iona really challenged us to think, well, am I teaching the story? Am I teaching the history? Am I teaching the culture? Am I teaching just the steps? And to really make time for that.
Yeah, and I think that's where the responsibility, which, of course, like they don't have enough responsibilities, but that's where the responsibility really lands on the studio owners. And it's not just about what we perform, it's about how we frame it, how we're crediting it, how we're, creating space for the voices the art belongs to. And that's a really hard thing to do as a studio almost owner or director because you may not understand it yourself, right? It might not be something that you specialize in, but it's your responsibility to make sure that that trickles down the way it's supposed to. And that doesn't always happen.
No, it does not. It does not always happen, and we have to be more intentional about that, for sure. That the big takeaway for me was like the love of an art form has to include a respect of where it came from, and that means doing the work, not just doing the steps. I think Iona, what was the second episode was representation. It was around race. Yes, the second episode was around race. We had this conversation and it really stayed with me because Iona painted such a clear picture of what it feels like to watch your cultural art form be centered in spaces and to like have access taken from you, which is crazy. There's a dissonance, and that really does matter. Like you can't remove access to the people who are the originators of the art form and take it as your own and not allow them to participate or not make the space for them to participate.
Yeah, it made me think about, my days in teaching and just how things have evolved even since, I've been out of teaching for about, you know, 6, 7 years now. And, it's changed so much even now. Like, who's in the room, who's on stage, who's teaching, who's being celebrated. Representation has to go beyond the performance and show up in leadership and programming and the ways that we're amplifying our message to our community. And so when you look at, my space that I taught in was commercial competitive dance. for youth dancers, right? So when you look at conventions and you look at all the videos I get across my feed now in terms of the staff that are teaching at these things, you're seeing a little bit more in terms of gender, race, right? Where it was there's progress, which is a theme we keep coming back to in our conversations with Iona. There's progress. It's not perfect, but it's progress.
And Iona also continued to touch on the who feels truly seen and welcomed into your space and who doesn't. She touched on a story about, someone saying, who has the money to compete. Only the people who have the money to compete can compete. Well, that might be a fact, but is that something that we want to perpetuate? Like, should we be making spaces for people who don't have the money to compete in some way? Is not We can state facts all day long, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be trying to make change in order to make those facts not true, not a reality any longer.
The more that I say all the time, we're a soccer family. Like our daughter does horses and piano, and our son is in competitive soccer. And youth athletics, I have a whole different view of it now as a parent who has to pay for this stuff, right? Versus when I was a director setting the program and setting the pricing and setting the rules, right? It's hard. It's expensive. And I often like we work really hard to give our son the opportunities that we do, but I often sit back and wonder, what about how many kids are out there that have an incredible amount of talent or would love to be doing this and just can't because it's so expensive? So their opportunities are so limited because maybe their family can't afford this, right? And it's across the board. I don't care. Insert any activity. They're all expensive. It's a lot. And they're designed to collect more and more and more and more and more money from the families. So, what do you do, right? They love it, they're great at it, like, they want more of it. Where do you draw that line, and how do we make it so that more kids are getting that opportunity? I don't know. I think the takeaway for me from this segment is representation shouldn't be a checkbox. It's a culture, and building that culture starts with asking the honest questions. And we've heard this time and time again on this show, right? It starts with being honest and asking the right questions, and then from there, you can do actionable change.
That was a great segment. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and then our third segment went into age and gender, which I think isn't talked about enough in any regard anywhere. Um, the age conversation was one I didn't expect to hit as hard as it did. Iona did talk about how belly dance is actually one of the few dance forms that celebrates a mature body until they get on a stage, right? And so they're still seeing that element when it comes to performing the dance, but in class, it's okay, right? And yet ageism still sneaks in when you get to that performance aspect. So, the tension is so real in the broader dance world as well. I mean, we're still fighting those stigmas that you can only dance to a certain age and then you have to hang up the shoes or retire, right? So, it's interesting.
It is, and as someone who works with dancers of all ages, I see it constantly, the idea that there's a shelf life, just go ahead and sit down once you get to a certain age, and Iona really pushed back on that, and I loved it. She even talked about, this group that she knew of dancers who were specifically like, "We're over 50, we're over 60, we're over 70, and we're still belly dancing." So, and other things she said that I really love, she was like, "I plan to do it until I just don't wanna do it anymore." So we need more attitudes like that, for sure.
And then the gender piece was another interesting thought, right? That belly dance has historically been seen in a feminine space, and Iona spoke so beautifully about what it means to be welcoming non-binary and male identifying dancers into that, how it's accepted here in the US. But where the dance form is rooted, right? Those Middle Eastern and North African regions, there are certain forms of belly dance that are I mean, you could literally get arrested for doing them if you're in those countries. So it's not just about tolerance, it's about genuine inclusion.
What a great space to make that an option here in the US, for those dancers who, may have been restricted from doing that in their home countries, is just really, really beautiful. So the question for all of us is, does our language, our marketing, our class structure, our costuming, does all of that send the message that everyone belongs? Or are we accidentally closing doors? And that was one of the things that Iona talked about, specifically around, like we talked about, like developmentally working with children. Or is this a family friendly show? Is this a family friendly studio? Is this a costume that is comfortable for different age groups, for different body types? And she also highlighted, which I actually was very surprised, because I always thought belly dance was you had to do the bra top and the belly had to show. And she was like, no, you can be fully covered. You can have, and I'm like, wow, that is so interesting that maybe here in the US or to the general market, it's been uh one way, and that's what we see, what we stereotypically know as belly dance. But that doesn't necessarily have to be what it is. And so as you are developing belly dance programs or looking for belly dance programming for yourself or your students, know that there are different options and know how you're marketing to people, and what that's saying about who's welcomed into your space. Everybody has a place in dance, and that was really the takeaway that I got from this, because we talked about age and we talked about gender, and making the working so that we are making sure that our space is actually reflective of the fact that everybody has a place in dance, was my biggest takeaway from that segment.
So I want to get real because the series it wasn't just educational for our audience. It was educational for us. I genuinely walked away feeling like I learned something. And I think that's the most powerful thing that we can model is being willing to say, I can learn, right? I'm going to do something differently because of this information. And that's the whole premise of this show.
And being intentional about it. It's not just an afterthought, not like, oh, yeah, that's right. It came from this region, but actually being intentional about it in any way that you can. You said something in one of the segments about, it doesn't have to be this big production to make it happen. Like, you can do things in very small ways to make sure that you're crediting cultures and amplifying the right voices and making sure there's accessibility for everybody, and asking better questions before you just move forward and do stuff.
It's really I think for studios, it's about the language. It's about the way that you're going to talk to your students of all ages and all identities with a clear message, "You belong here," right? Full stop. Nothing else to say, "You belong here," right? Because beautiful things happen when people feel welcome in spaces. So, the takeaway for this segment is learning is only the beginning. The real work is with what you do next with that information, which continues to be a common thread we unravel on this show. So, we, as you all know, are very big on education and resources, and we're going to mention this again and again and again. Our STEPS initiative course is completely free. It's a 5-part course series that's going to give you evidence based research and resources for you to learn more on your own on everything from gender inequity to racism, sex abuse and prevention, nutrition, psychology, dance medicine, and science, and how those things are affecting our dance community and vice versa. We encourage you to take it, share it with your community. It is when you know better, you do better. It's in that same vein. So, really encourage you to take that course and check it out. If you haven't caught our episodes, any of our episodes, Iona's episodes, or anything before that, we encourage you to go back. Seasons 1 through 6 are now available on Facebook and YouTube at Apolla Performance and TP Dance Creations. Check those out. Our earlier seasons, warning, are not the best in terms of production value, but we've got it together. We're here now, so yeah, we're making progress. There you go. There you go. And of course, we want to give Iona's information one more time. You can take classes with Iona virtually, or she's based in Charlotte, but you can find more about her and her classes at lotus-studios.com. And they're also, you can follow them on Facebook, It was Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Lotus Belly Dance NC, NC being for North Carolina. Again, at Lotus Belly Dance NC. Make sure you give them a follow and check out everything that they're doing. They appreciate the support. So thank you to Iona again for her time and her knowledge and wisdom. It was really fun to have the conversation with her.
And Iona just brought so much honesty and depth and grace to the conversation. We are genuinely better for it. Make sure you are following this show because we're going to bring you some more information next month. We have a brand new series coming your way with more conversations that go deeper than just choreography.
And until next time, we hope you continue your